And after viewing the documents, and do those documents, by the way, include what we call law enforcement sensitive information?
The documents themselves are law enforcement sensitive. They're law enforcement files. They're tips that we receive from the public and the actions associated with those tips, so yes.
What's the difference between something you call law enforcement sensitive and something that you could put on the front page of the Washington Post?
Something that's purely unclassified versus something that has a law enforcement caveat that is necessary to protect potential investigative equities, witness information, subject information, anything related to sources, methods, techniques, that type of thing.
And after Jim Jordan's team viewed the documents, are you aware of a report that Jim Jordan drafted related to their inquiry?
I'm aware.
And in that report, was it a public report?
I believe it was a public report.
And in that report, did you see any law enforcement sensitive information?
I'm not aware of what information was in the report. I haven't studied it closely enough to determine whether there's law enforcement sensitive information there, but that's something I can certainly get back to you on.
Okay, I'll go back to you with some pieces that we saw that were included in there that would qualify as an unlawful disclosure. Ms. Bumpus, thank you again for also doing something that Jim Jordan would not do and responding to a subpoena. Is it true that you've worked for multiple prior chairs that were Republican and Democratic and even worked for John McCain when you worked on the Hill?
Sorry, yes, Congressman. I did work for John McCain on the Hill prior to coming to the FTC in 2006, and I've worked for 8 chairmen as Director of Congressional Relations for Democrats and for Republicans.
And while you were responsive to the inquiries of the chairman, is it true that you cannot provide information about ongoing or potential investigations?
That is correct. Under the rules of the commission, we cannot disclose non-public information without a vote of the commission.
So would you be committing a crime if you did what Jim Jordan is asking you to do?
I cannot speak today about non-public information or about ongoing investigations.
Thank you. I yield back.
The gentleman from New Jersey is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I hate to waste time, but I have to start out because this falls under the policy. If you say things over and over and over and over again, people will start to believe them. Let's hear the truth. Let's know what the truth is. Mr. Jordan, our chairman, told CBS News on January 13th, 2022, that I never said no. He never said no before to testify before the January 6th committee. And here's a direct quote. And we have it, and I'd like to enter this into the record, Chairman, this direct quote. There's a reason I was concerned about testifying, but I never said, and this was on CBS, I never said no. And that was to Major Garrett. I'd like to enter that. Thank you. So I don't know if I should say it again. Would that make everybody believe it more? Because Mr. Swalwell thinks that by saying it over and over and over and over and over again, I put a lot of overs in there, Eric, just like you do when you speak, you know, or by using the F word when we really didn't need it in the testimony in the hearing. We could have done that in quite a more gentle way. But it's sensational. It's sensational. And certainly, Mr. Swalwell, this hearing's not about you. I know it's been made about you to some degree, but you're a sensational guy, and you've been involved in an awful lot of things that are pretty amazing and questionable, but we're not here to discuss them today because that would be exciting testimony. We're here to discuss, number one, Jim Jordan, if you want to keep bringing it up, and January 6th. And by the way, I wouldn't blame him that he doesn't want to testify, but he said he would, because the January 6th committee wasn't bipartisan. It wasn't formulated right. It didn't have any real members on there that were appointed by the minority leader at that time or anybody from really any substance of the Republican Party. The bottom line was it wasn't a real committee. It didn't tell the truth. It didn't do the right thing. Now, do you want me to say say that over again? It wasn't the right committee. It didn't do the right thing. It didn't tell the truth. Do you want me to say it over again? It wasn't a good committee. It didn't do the right thing, and it didn't tell the truth.
One more time.
That one more time? It didn't tell the truth, okay? So I can repeat things a lot too, and it wastes time. But you know, you never let the truth get in the way of a good story. And Mr. Swalwell, I'll say this. I don't know if you've ever seen the show Seinfeld. Jerry Seinfeld, remember that show? Some of us are old enough to remember it, and some of us just like it. And they asked George one time, because he was going to tell a big, fat, whopping lie. And he said, well, the truth is the truth if you believe it's the truth, even if it's a lie. Mr. Swalwell, I believe that's the deal in what you're doing here, and I'm sorry, but sorry to have to say it to you, but that's what I think. Mr. Dunham, thank you for coming in today. Can I ask why the FBI wasn't present at our previous hearing?
Yeah, thank you, Congressman. First, I'll be remiss if I didn't mention I was born in Carneys Point. I got a lot of family in South Jersey
God
that
bless
are your
you.
constituents. So
Salem County.
beautiful territory down there. I love it. I was with the director. He was testifying before the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence for the annual threat assessment hearing. I had conversation with the staff in advance of your March 9th hearing.
Please excuse me, I don't mean to be rude. Why didn't they just show up? Isn't it so much easier? It's, you know, like everything else. Why not just give us the documents? Why not just show up? You know something's wrong. Intuitively, something's wrong. And you know, again, Mr. Swalwell asked, what are the American people? They know something's wrong. Over 60% of them know that it's not right. I love the FBI. I want to trust the FBI. And I don't understand some of the things that are going on now. And I don't understand why he wouldn't be here at this meeting. He should have been.
I appreciate the flexibility of the committee allowing me to come at a later date, and I'm here today to answer your questions.
Thank you for doing that. You know, and by the way, you know what I'm going to do? And I know it's going to aggravate them a lot. I'm going to talk about Mar-a-Lago again. Everybody ready? Because we can say over and over and over again, it doesn't matter. It has nothing to do whether you like Donald Trump or not. You know why it matters? It matters because dozens of FBI agents descended upon Mar-a-Lago where there was a former sitting president who had Secret Service around him. Were they afraid of the Secret Service? Is that why they needed so many arms? Did they think Donald Trump was going to come out and he was going to start shooting it up? What was the reason, especially when there was cooperation, especially when it was done with our current president, who had somewhat of a similar situation, and this didn't happen? So I have the answer to you. Why do we need so many people? Why did we have to be so violent? Why do we have to be so aggressive?
Gentleman's permitted to answer.
I think, Congressman, as you're aware, there are multiple special counsel investigations looking into not only the Donald Trump, former President Trump documents, but also the Biden documents as well. And I would defer you to the Department of Justice for questions related to that.
It's not an answer. I'm sorry, and I love you from Carney's Point, but it's not an answer.
Gentleman's time has expired.